What's up, guys? Long time no see. My goodness! It's finally here, finally out, so we can all play and enjoy. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to play Granblue Fantasy Versus. I'm going to be breaking down the mechanics, the button layout. Of course, if you've never played a fighting game, this is going to be very prevalent to you. And if you guys are just remotely interested in Granblue Fantasy Versus and want to know a little bit more about the mechanics, this is the video for you as well. And if you guys already have the game, I hope you guys are enjoying it. Now, if you're one of those people that are still waiting for the North American release or the European release, I suggest that you either wait for the release date, of course, or you can import it from the Asia region because you can now play it fully dubbed, fully subbed, everything in English and everything in Japanese, so there's no need to wait for the release date. But there is one thing that I want to go over before I start this guide, and if you guys already know about it, then that's fantastic, that's perfect. But if you guys don't, let me explain it right now for everybody to see. If you guys have been following this game recently, or even following anime fighting games recently, you guys know that there's some players, including me, that use numbers and letters to be able to explain what's going on screen. Well, here is what that is. This is the NumPad notation. This is a very universal language that we use in the world of fighting games, especially anime fighting games, and this is something that you need to know if you don't. So the NumPad notation, basically, it explains the position of the character. So for example, if you take a look at a NumPad on a keyboard, you see that there's a 5, and the 5 represents the character standing still, just being neutral. After that, if the character goes forward, he is going in the 6 direction. If he's going backwards, he's going in the 4 direction. If he jumps up and down, it's the 8 direction. And if he's crouching down, then it's the 2 direction. So on and so forth. So that is basically the NumPad notation. It explains directions for specific games. And the reason why we do this is to universally be able to use this language without any language barriers. So, for example, somebody from Italy, somebody from Brazil, somebody from Japan or China can be able to use this notations, and they can be able to explain to somebody what this is or write to somebody what the combo is, and they'll be able to know right away without having to learn their language. So for example, if you're going to be doing a special move that is quarter circle forward, you would do 2, 3, 6. If you were to do a quarter circle back notation, it is 2, 1, 4. If it's a dragon punch notation, which is 6, 2, 3. That is how you explain motions in fighting games, and especially in anime fighting games, like I was saying. This is very important because Granblue Fantasy Versus is also one of those games that uses this notation. So if you guys don't know about this, you really should be learning it, and at least to be able to get it in your mind so you know about it as well. And the more you use it and the more you know about it, the better you'll be able to remember all these different numbers and directions and such. All right, one more thing before I elaborate on the game and the guide to how to play Granblue Fantasy Versus. I do want to tell you guys about the tutorial for this game because it is a fantastic tutorial. Not only does it show you how to play the game, but it gives you specific samples of specific combos for specific characters, and also tells you matchup knowledge, which is so great, and every fighting game should have it. This game is really, really great when it comes to the tutorial. So please, please check it out if you do have it. And if you don't have it, wait till you get it and try it out. Until then, let's get into Granblue Fantasy Versus. So I'm going to be explaining this game as detailed as possible, going over everything. I'm going to elaborate on the mechanics and the button configurations. And of course, I'm going to be going over how to approach this game and all that good stuff. First, let's go over the button configuration for this game. Now, this game is a 5-button fighter, technically, but it can be used as a 6-button fighter. The reason why I say that is because there is an easy button, and it's completely unnecessary. You can completely ignore it if you so wish. Now, there are some characters that benefit from this button more than others. For example, charge characters like Charlotta, because she does require a charge, and if you lose that charge, you can rely on the 1-button special to be able to, let's say, use her reversal or use her rolling attack. However, not a lot of characters can actually utilize this button, or do not have to, I should say. So, technically speaking, the most important buttons in this game are going to be light, medium, heavy, and unique attack. And of course, the block button. And the block button has some things of its own. But let's go over the actual buttons themselves. The light button is going to be your light attacks. Of course, they're going to be faster. They hit a little weaker, but they are very quick if you want to just get a button out. Medium is the best of both worlds. It's not heavy, but it's not light either. So it's really good for poking in the neutral. And the neutral, what it basically means is this right here. When both characters are standing still, what are the characters going to be doing, or the players going to be doing, to initiate the first attack? That's what the neutral is. If you guys wanted to elaborate more on that, there's probably multiple videos, and I can make another video based on that. Next up is going to be the heavy button, and the heavy button is going to be a slower button, but also harder hitting. So you're going to be using this to be able to hit really, really hard to punish specific moves. This is the button you want to use. Next up is going to be the unique attack, and this is going to be unique for every single character. This is what you're going to be experimenting with depending on which character you pick. For Zeta, her unique attack is going to be a multi-stabbing move that's actually safe on block, so you don't have to worry about getting punished. Also on the unique button, you have specific air moves that are unique to those characters. So for example, Gran and Catalina have ridiculously good cross-up buttons, and Zeta actually has a pogo stick you can do up to 3 times, which is really cool. Also attached to the unique button is the sweep, and every sweep is different. Zeta's is a 2-hitting sweep, which is really nice, and sweeps are also one of the only buttons that can fully knock down. The guard button is a new concept that Granblue Fantasy Versus has implemented, because you can guard by holding back and down back, but you can also guard by holding the guard button. Now, what's the difference between the two? Well, if you hold down back and back, of course you have a little bit more liberty as to how you can switch between blocking high and blocking low, while the guard button is a little bit different and a little bit more limiting, because a couple other things are attached to the block button. For example, the spot dodge, and the dodge roll. So how you do these is you hold the guard button, and if you want to spot dodge, you hold back. And if you want to dodge roll, you go forward. And that's how you do the dodges, essentially. And these are very, very important to this game, and we'll go over those in just a moment. But essentially, those are the main buttons you're going to be utilizing in this game. The last button is, of course, the special button, or the easy button, I should say, which is a button where you don't have to utilize your motions to be able to get special moves out. You can just press a single button and you get your special move. And depending on which direction you press, you can get your other special moves. So if you press back special, if you press forward special, if you press down special, all that good jazz, it's all inputted into one move instead of actually doing the motion. Also, to add on top of that, whenever you want to utilize a different strength using the easy input, you just have to press the easy button, a direction, and another button depending on that strength. So if you want to use the medium version of a spear lunge, you have to press the easy button and the medium button. If you want to use the EX button, then you have to do the easy button and the heavy button, just like that. And that's how you utilize the easy buttons with different strengths. So now that we went over all the different buttons in this game, I want to go over the button combinations, because there are other specific mechanics when you press 2 buttons at the same time. For example, if you press the light button and the unique button, you get a grab. Alongside that, you can actually grab in the air. So if I were to set Gran to jump just like that, you can actually press the same combination of moves that you use to grab in the ground to grab in the air. And every single character has this air grab. If you press the medium and the heavy button at the same time, you get a universal overhead. And by the way, when you go to the training mode and you actually have hit properties to show, you can actually see what kind of move and what kind of properties that move has. For example, the universal overhead, it'll tell you it's an overhead. If you press any other button, it says it's a high, and if it's a low, it shows as a low right there. So just a little bit of an FYI. So anyways, the universal overhead is with everybody. Everybody has this. They're all different, by the way, but it is an overhead for sure. And the last button combination is going to be the unique button and the heavy button, which is a taunt. And this is going to be really, really fun because, you know, taunting can be an art in its own. So now that we went over the button configuration, let's go over the proximity normals and, of course, the auto combos, because they're both very much related. So what are proximity normals? Proximity normals are basically your button alters depending on what range you're standing from the opponents. So for example, let's take 5B, this button right here, alters or changes depending on the range you're standing from the opponents. So this is how it is when you're far away from Gran, and this is what happens when you're close to him. And this is what proximity normals are, and that's with every single button in this game. That's the heavy button, and there is the close button. Here is the close light, and here's the far light. And that is what proximity normals are. Now, on a related note, auto combos are also altered to only happen whenever you're close to the opponents. So for example, this is the auto combo right here when you're up close. Now, if you do it when you're far away, nothing really happens. There is no auto combo whatsoever. It only happens when you're up close. And the auto combo alters depending on which button you press. But the last 2 hits of the auto combo will always be the same. The only thing that alters is when you actually press a different button when you start the auto combo. So there's the light version, here's the medium version, and here's the heavy version. The last 2 hits are always the same. The only thing that changes is the beginning button. Next up, I'm going to be going over the special moves and the Skybound arts. I'm also going to be going over the differences between the manual input and the easy input so you guys can tell the difference. So, special moves, of course, you're going to be utilizing these to be able to win the match, be able to press and also defend. So, how you do these manual inputs is, of course, you have to be able to utilize a motion on your joystick or on your pad, and then press a button right afterwards. And depending on which button you press, you get a different attribute for that specific move. So for example, a projectile quarter circle forward in light is a very fast projectile, and then while the medium version, it's a lot slower on startup, but it recovers a lot faster, so you can act out of it right after the move comes out. And the heavy version is always going to be an enhanced version, or EX version, which is this right here. And usually it's the best of both worlds. It's either super fast and it recovers really quickly, and usually it has a wall bounce attribute of some kind. And you can combo afterwards, especially in the corner. And then, of course, you have to look at your command list so you can take a look at every single one of your moves for your specific character. It's very, very awesome the way that they presented all the special moves and how to do it, depending on your character. So please utilize this command list because it is very nice. Next, let's talk about Skybound arts. Now, Skybound arts are special moves or super special moves that you can only utilize once your bar fills up to 100%. And once you do, the manual input for it is double quarter circle forward and heavy button, just like that. And this is Zeta's super special move, which is the Skybound arts. And there is another version to the Skybound art, which is going to be a super Skybound art, and that only happens when your health gets below a certain percentage. Usually about 30%, maybe 40. Let me try 40 actually. Nope, about 33, between 30 and 40% health. You get the super Skybound art. And once you do, you can actually utilize this move and you have the choice between Skybound art and super Skybound art, which you can do double quarter circle forward and unique move. Unique button. And that is hers. Now let's go over the main differences between the easy inputs versus the manual inputs. There's 2 main things you have to keep in mind of whenever you want to use one or the other. The main thing, of course, is going to be the obvious one, which is ease of use. One of them, you have to actually input a motion and a button versus just pressing a direction and a button, maybe 2 buttons, depending on which strength you want to use. So that's the main thing, and that's pretty obvious. The other thing is going to be another very, very, very important and crucial detail about it, the cooldown system. Now, if you guys don't know, this game runs on a cooldown system. So the special moves, whenever you utilize them, you actually are subject to be in cooldown, especially if you use the EX moves. So for example, if you use them regularly, like for example, this move right here, as you can see on the top left, you see that a box was briefly shadowed out. And then of course, if you use the EX version of the move, you actually go into a very, very long cooldown because the EX moves are a lot better than their normal versions. Now, what's the difference when I say cooldowns between easy inputs and manual inputs? Well, whenever you use a manual input, you hardly get any cooldown at all. So if you do this lunge, you see that I can utilize it pretty much immediately again, just like that. But if you utilize the easy version, the cooldown will be a lot longer. So for example, there's that. You see the difference between the manual version and the easy version? You see that the cooldown lasts a lot longer compared to the manual inputs, just like that. Now, when it comes to Skybound arts and super Skybound arts, the only difference I can really tell is basically just damage. There's really no cooldown differentiation. but the damage is definitely a big thing when it comes to comboing into the Skybound arts. So what I suggest is definitely utilizing your time and just going to the lab and practicing the motions whenever you do combos, because you losing out on a little bit of damage could mean the entire game. So that is very, very important to be able to keep in mind. So now let's go over the block button or the guard button. This is a very interesting button that a lot of people are actually very new to, especially in a 2D anime fighting game. So let's go over it a little bit so we can elaborate and clear up some misinformation. So, like I said, you can block by holding this button. You can block low, you can block high, whatever the case. And of course, you can also spot dodge with this button by holding back and the guard button, and then holding the guard button and rolling forward, just like that. That's how you utilize these mechanics. Let's talk about guarding first, okay? So what's the difference between guarding with holding a button or guarding with holding down back and back? There's really one difference, all right? One difference, and that is whenever you are in a tick grab situation, you can actually nullify the tick grab by walking backwards compared to holding down the guard button. Some of you may be asking, what is a tick grab? Well, tick grab is basically when they tap you like that and then they go for a grab. You probably have seen it many, many times if you played this game, but that's a tick grab. So if I were to put myself in that situation, I have Gran set right now. So if I were to hold down just like that, and I'm holding backwards, I have to tech the grab myself. Like I have to physically either tech the grab or take the grab, one or the other. Now, if I were to just utilize me holding backwards to block, then I would actually escape the situation altogether because I'd be walking backwards. So, if I were to put myself in that same situation again, you see that I can walk backwards when I don't hold the guard button. In that situation, it's really, really good. You're susceptible to lows when you do this, but that's besides the point. That is, from what I found, the main thing whenever I was experimenting between the guard button and the holding back button. Now, before the game came out, I actually thought there was another difference between the guard button and the holding back to block, and that was the just defend mechanic. Now, the just defend mechanic, let's explain that right now. The just defend mechanic is whenever you match your opponent's attack while you're blocking, you actually flash white and you gain a lot of meter. Now, this mechanic was actually a thing before in previous Arc System games, but it gave, not only did it give you more meter, but it also gave you frame advantage. In this game, it only gives you meter. So let's showcase this off, actually. So Gran is going to be attacking me. Oop, didn't get it that time. There it is right there, just defend. That was when you flash white, and the game will tell you just. That's how you know you got it. Now, it gives you a ton of meter compared to when you block normally. So let's go over that again. Now, watch me just block regularly. Whoopsies. Block regularly, just like that. I get like, what, 1%, 2% meter. But if I just defend it, so it's a substantial increase whenever you do that. Also, the just defend also prevents you from dying from chip. So, chip damage kills, but if you just defend it just right, you do not die from chip. So the reason why I mentioned this is because I used to think that you could not just defend whenever you were holding down the guard button, but that is not true. Look at this. As you can see, I was able to just defend while holding the guard button. The only difference I see here for holding the guard button compared to holding back to block is basically the fact that you can stay stationary when you hold down the guard button, and when you hold back, you can move around by slipping by specific tick grab setups and other setups, I imagine. So that's the main difference that I really found. You can still tech while grabbing, by the way. That's a big misconception that a lot of people were thinking, including myself, by the way, until I corrected myself. So like I'm holding down the guard button and I was able to tech just fine, just like that. So the guard button is extremely strong. Next up, let's go over the spot dodge and the dodge roll. Let's go over spot dodge first. Spot dodge is really good because it's just like in Smash Brothers, if you guys are familiar with that, is that you stay in place and you dodge. It's completely fully invul until you come out of the spot dodge. Then you are very, very much vulnerable. Also, it's not throw invincible, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So you can throw anybody out of their spot dodge, and also if you wait for it, you can punish them for doing it willy-nilly. So just to have Gran, I have it set to grab. So if I try to spot dodge, I try to spot dodge it, he grabs me no matter what. So, but if he does anything else, just like a sweep or something, then I can actually spot dodge it just like that. But like I said, you can actually get blown up very, very, very easily for spot dodging willy-nilly because, like I said, it's vulnerable when you come out of it. So if I have Gran just completely mash this button right here, I can actually get blown up pretty easily, actually. Just like this. Whoops. Just like this. Oh my gosh, come on. Yeah, I got counter hit and I can't block it either. So that's the spot dodge. It's really good for nullifying specific strategies such as zoning. So projectiles, if they try to throw a projectile at me, I can actually spot dodge it with the greatest of ease, just like that. If they try to go for strings or block strings with gaps, for example, like a very popular one is with Gran is going to be that right there. So if he tries to do that to me, I can actually spot dodge it just like that in between. And that's pretty much the spot dodge. It's really, really nice to be able to utilize this effectively. Like I said, don't use it willy-nilly because you can't get blown up for it. Other than that, it's really, really cool. Next up is the dodge roll. Now the dodge roll is a little bit different from the spot dodge. Dodge roll, of course, you move forward, so you can actually nullify specific projectiles, especially with block strings as well. So if they try to do a block string, you can actually dodge roll straight into the opponent's face. And if they just do like regular projectiles, you can also dodge roll right into their face. Now the only difference between the spot dodge and the dodge roll is that dodge roll is actually not fully invulnerable. So you can actually hit them out of it during their dodge roll. You can only do it versus moves that are body invul, but if they try to clip your toes, you're going to get hit. So for example, if Gran is completely just like that. Oh, whoops. Gran sweeps me, or I'm trying to dodge roll, I'm going to get hit. You see that counter hit? That means that I can't do anything about it. I'm getting hit no matter what. So any move that can clip your toes is going to be very bad, especially as well as moves that are very active as well. So for example, jump-ins or when people meaty their attacks. And meatying is something completely different, but for the people that know, you know. For the most part, dodge roll is to be utilized effectively whenever there's a gap in between their block strings and or projectiles. The last thing I want to talk about is the movement. Of course, there's a few things that I wanted to touch up on when it comes to movement, which is, of course, the jumping, the walking, the super jumping, and the dashing. So, of course, you can super jump in this game, which is basically holding down or tapping down and then immediately going up in whatever direction you want, just like that. The next thing is dashing, and dashing is actually risky in this game. There's some games that when you dash, you can actually block immediately afterwards, so you can get through zoning. But this game, you actually are very susceptible and very vulnerable whenever you dash. So I actually set Gran to throw a few fireballs. If I try to dash up in between fireballs, I'm going to get hit. So let's go ahead and do that. I block this one. I tried to block right there and I couldn't. Yep, just like that. As you can see on in my motions that I go down back immediately afterward. Even if I hold the block button, actually. Let's do that again. Block. And even if I hold the block button, I can't really do it. Yeah, there is a little bit of recovery when it comes to the dashes compared to other games. Also, you can actually cancel runs into spot dodges and into dodge rolls. So if you try to do something like this, you can actually start up with the run and then end with the dodge roll so you can actually get through. So there's a couple of options out of dashing that doesn't include just straight up blocking. So utilize this information wisely because that can get you killed. However, whenever you make the right read and the right move, like for example, dodge rolling through specific projectiles at specific moments, you can actually effectively punish them and win the match. And that's pretty much Granblue Fantasy Versus in a nutshell. We went over the mechanics, we went over the cooldown system, the special moves, etc., etc. Hopefully you guys learned something new from this. That is pretty much my takeaway from this video, that you guys can have a smooth transition from playing casually to playing competitively. And of course, to do that, you have to start with the basics, which is the mechanics and everything the game has to offer. For those of you who are brand new getting into fighting games, for the Granblue Fantasy crowd, of course, I know that a lot of people might pick this up because they're a fan of the IP, but not necessarily know too much about fighting games. I do have something for you guys to share. There's lots of resources, there's lots of guides, there's lots of different ways for you to be able to get into the competitive aspect of fighting games if you want to take it a little bit more seriously than just, you know, a Granblue Fantasy spin-off with fighting game mechanics. Essentially, there's people to help. I'm always going to be here, and if you guys do want to ask me any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter and or my live stream. Usually I don't answer too many comments from YouTube. However, that doesn't mean that I will not take any questions from new people that want to get into fighting games. That is sort of like my whole mission with this video and with my future videos and just my videos in general. Actually, it's a very fulfilling genre, that's for damn sure. And let me tell you, this game really tickles my fancy when it comes to that too. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you guys thought this was helpful, if you guys found it informative, if you guys want me to do something similar with other things like characters. Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if I missed anything, please tell me in the comment section down below for other people to see, just in case I missed anything. But I think I got everything. But there's always that one feeling. It's like you leaving the house and forgetting, having that I forgot something feeling. So let me know in the comment section down below. Take it easy, everybody. Happy Granblue Fantasy Versus. Take care, guys. Have a good one.